Imagine, just got back from work, chilling one day, and then BAM! Half of your deck is gone. So hello everyone and welcome back to the Time Gaming, where today we'll be talking and probably ranting about the newest Battle Spirits TCG ban and restricted list. It does come as a surprise since the ban hammer just dropped without warning, and it will be effective right away from 30 March 2024. If you are coming from Saga, rest assured that this is not for Saga, but you are welcome to stay if you want to fuel your theory crafting on how to possibly predict how Bandai does their ban list. Although speaking of patterns, there are three main reasons why these cards are introduced to the list, which is interfering with the health of the tournament environment, hard to remove cards that heavily restricts opponents' early game, and hard counters to new mechanics. With these reasons in mind, let's just jump straight into the list. Dark Initiation falls to reason 1 of the ban list and is a very popular card in loop decks since it is very versatile, allowing you to either gain infinite cores with Chalistic Doll or banish your opponent's whole deck with Triton. Decks that use this card are very capable of looping it, so I am quite surprised that they actually took this long to remove this card, as the resolution of this card and the cards surrounding it takes enough time to cause a lot of timeouts in tournaments. That being said, loop players will probably have to rely on less efficient engine, and they will probably release an Ogre Wizard specific version when they bring back Hera in a new set. Hector falls to reason 2 of the ban list. There's not much to say about this card though, as drawing it in your first turn against popular contract decks such as Shark and Oboro basically shuts down their whole deck. Even though the upcoming mechanic focusing on Grandwalkers possibly bringing alternative draw powers such as the Godseekers, it is a big hindrance regardless, especially to contract decks that mainly draw cards to gain advantage. I initially thought that this was kind of an overkill, but after a heart-to-heart with Ayumu, I've learned how this card has tormented a lot of people in recent years. I've learned the error of my ways, and this card should burn in hell. So Binding Edge and Butterfly Jammer. These two cards also fall into reason 2 of the ban list. These cards serve as very good breaks for popular decks like Javad and Shark, and if you look closely, both cards have effects that we often forget that may hinder the performance of Grandwalkers. That will be the focus of the next sets, so I guess they got a strike out for stepping into reason 3 territory as well. I'm quite indifferent as this will be another break that allows mono green decks to catch up, but as we are moving to new mechanics, this removal might give chances to some old faces as well. And then we have Swallowtail and Sexy Bazooka. Just like the previous cards, they also hover around reason 2 and reason 3, as along with Bone Shark, they have been previously limited to 1 at the beginning of the contract saga for being a reason 1. So yeah, while they haven't seen place in a while, I think it is inevitable to see them go, as they had too much strikeout with the devs. The normal Swallowtail once again became a victim of the circumstance. Moon Ogre Castle was banned for being reason 3, even though it is not the only card with effects that might hinder manifest. It does that while being able to bring back itself every turn and trading any of your Blood Crystal Spirits for a draw, thus triggering their when destroyed effects, allowing you to draw up to 4 cards in exchange for 1. It is a very strong card, but as decks that can fully benefit from it are limited, I think it is an overkill to put it directly in the ban list, but what's gone is gone. Vampire Folk is another card that got into the ban list because of reason 3, as Manifest also interacts with your Soul Core. I can see that it has a strikeout with reason 2 as well, as it slows down deck that plays with early advance, while giving you pretty much a free draw in the process. Given that they have 2 cost and 2 reductions, they are also practically free, and finally the way its effect is worded, not only does it stop Manifest, it will stop any and every mechanics involving soul cores that they will release in the future. As you can kind of play around how to remove this card, I guess they could have limited it to 1, but alas, another good boy is gone. Universal Century Charter. Apparently this is another reason 3 ban. We already have some overkills to this point, but at this point I think they are just being too paranoid. So as a fun fact, it is the first collaboration card to be put in the ban list, after Archie Gundam and Imperial Dragon Paladin mode previously entered the limited list. And that pretty much means your favorite niche collab cards might already have a red dot on their forehead quite much now. Moving on to the less harsh restricted to 1 list. Now this card is limited to 1 for the exact same reason as the UC Charter. While there are specific decks that can benefit from exchanging your life for 1 core, it stops more play just by existing. Which, mind you, it also has innate protection and is practically free to play, just like Vampire Folk. And as if that was not enough, they expanded its effect to also affect core charges, which if you ask me, is hardly worth losing your life in-game for. I'm not saying it's not harsh enough, while there are more ways to remove it than with the usage order, I think you can be a little bit harder with the head, couldn't you? And then we have Pelsipid Sight, another recent 3 restriction, which need way more setup and is limited to decks playing Purple Grandwalker Nexus. But as Hades will be joining the fray pretty much as the main character of the next saga, and the existing all-in Grandwalkers that will be the focus of the set like Hera and Dionysus can both benefit from having multiple copies of the site, I think this is a bit too hasty but not too unfair of a decision as well. Then we have Drone and Scarab Beetle. These 2 cards are in a way less versatile version of Hector, as in exchange of giving 1 core and being able to be summoned more easily when push comes to shove, there are currently no way to remove a Mirage. I guess they are just trying to nip the butts here, but I guess as the mono green decks are losing lots of breaks, they might be spared as an option for the decks to kind of catch up with. And then we have InnoRacer and Virkaik Pitch. We finally came back to Recent 1 restriction as undoubtedly Azure Wave has survived waves and waves of restriction, where they eventually even lose the root of all evil. But it still proves to be a very versatile deck, and the addition of Kunik Shark allows the existing kit to shift into more aggressive play that can end a game in the first 3 turns. That is if you can build your counter early, which is what InnoRacer and Virkaik Pitch does. Given that blue is all about drawing the correct card at the right time, and Azure Wave on its own already have 10,000 draw cards, I think this is a good enough restriction as it doesn't completely take away what made the deck good, while allowing the players to be more creative to use the slots that they freed up. And then we have Tarfos. The Superstar deck somehow acts way more like zombies than the actual zombie decks, as they have survived losing Cordelia, the Star Dragon Salvagers, the card I drew was weak indeed, and even their very own Darkroom 10. Although their card pool is very limited, they preserved and brought more cards like Dark Tower into the spotlight, and stole some wins in the process. Tarfos is definitely one of the pillars to that consistency, as on top of searching for your later game cards, it also protects your early game symbols from most effects until you can set up all your Grandwalkers and bulldoze your opponent. So yeah, given that the Superstar has been my nemesis since the day of its Big Bang, I would set logic aside and give a salute to Tarfos' service. Count your days, Tarfos, you'll be gone to one day. Now we move on to kind of a new thing that they introduced a little bit earlier, as Tower of Darkness will be a part of the upcoming Mega Deck. If it is not obvious from the name, a band pair means you can only bring either one type of the card. So if you bring even one Dark Tower, you cannot include any Tower of Darkness in your deck, and vice versa. Now this list is born because of very adult reasons, and while in the future they may opt to adopt dual naming like Battle Spirit Saga instead, I think this is a good sign that some generic collaboration cards that Battle Spirits has lost access to licensing to, like Imperial Throne Paladin mode, might come back as another separate card in the future. And now that we have this band pair list, although with how much alternative we have to every single card that you wanted a band pair for, now that we actually have the band pair list, we at least have the options. So when the band pair actually made sense, we can simply add them to this list. Finally, although this video is mainly about the banning and its restriction, we also have some cards that finally got their freedom. So first of all, we have Invisible Cloak. I think this is pretty much a given since after it was freed from the ban list and subsequently reprinted, it barely made an appearance due to the unblockable effect being more and more commonplace. With more copies, you might be able to justify testing them in decks that deals lots of attack damage, but it's lacking that mechanic to make your spirits unblockable. Have fun with it. Then we have Magic Book. Now this is a pretty late but welcome return, as Magic has become less prevalent and the cost to play Magic Book itself is quite high, but as new decks that utilize lots of Magic like Palm existed and Aphrodite possibly coming back as a contractor, it can open the gate for them to make a more versatile revival version in the future, maybe giving it less cost or making it a flower in the process. Then we have the Wanderer Lolo. If you come here from Saga and somehow you still stay for this long, first of all, thank you very much. But even if you are not from Saga, each main set in Battle Spirits belongs to a saga that was chronicled by a certain hero. Among them, Lolo is the OG. And as a flavor of being an observer to the story, Lolo cannot actively attack nor equip with a Brave, all while having the wisdom of the 6 worlds in his 6 symbols. But the part that became problematic was actually the part where he is unaffected by all other effects, including your own. When he was first put into the restricted list, he has a very good synergy with this magic called Inferno Ice, which when looped can practically clean your opponent's field while also completely depriving them of their cores, all while Lolo's own effect protects it from Inferno Ice. Now that Inferno Ice is banned and piercing effect is more commonplace, and now you can kind of use him as an option for decks that requires you to play lots of colors like Godsex, or like in this fun combo that I found on Twitter, you can spam 3 copies of Lolo, then attack with a Thor Castle to decimate at least 19 cards from the opposing deck. Isn't Battle Spirits fun? To kind of wrap everything up, the Battle Spirits Investigation Office has never stopped to amuse me on how well they kind of predict which cards will be a hindrance to the game, or I'm just biased because none of my decks got hit this time. But I can't really say the same about the others, as while I was writing this script, the BS official website is actually down. Maybe it is a DDoS attack, maybe people are just panic browsing, who knows. Anyway, what do you think about this new ban list? Are there any cards that you think are overkill to be put in there? Or are there more cards that you think should be in the list? Do leave them in the comments below. If you have any of these cards in your deck, do air them out, as you only have until 30th of this month to say goodbye to them. If you don't feel safe yet, as they might be watching your decks, at least for now. If you want more of this kind of discussion videos, do consider leaving a like. If you want to see whether we can actually play the game, you can also check out our battle videos. And do subscribe for more casual content on both Battle Spirits and Battle Spirit Saga. That has been this episode of The Time Gaming. I'm Theodore Lu, your host, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye!